Well, hello, writers. Welcome to the Oklahoma Council of Teachers of English Young Writers Contest for grades 6 through 12. Today, we are going to take a look at, which one should it be? How about we look at the personal narrative right up here? We're going to look at the personal narrative today and give you some ideas for getting started and writing your story so that other people can witness your lives and enjoy your story and maybe learn a thing or two about your experiences. So let's go ahead and get started. The personal narrative. So as with the short story video, I recommend that you first and foremost go to the anthology examples, and let's celebrate the Writers Contest winners from last year, the writers whose work was featured in our anthology. So Juliana Cavalin, Jerry Doherty, Chloe Schmidt, Drew Doucette, Gwen Gilmore, and Brooklyn Landrum. Thank you so much for your contributions to the anthology and the stories that you have shared about your lives. So please enjoy those and look at those as mentor texts for you as you begin to write your personal narrative. All right, so as with anything, it's helpful to just start with spending some time writing about your life in a very low stakes format. So it's not like you have to sit down, write the one story that you're going to share with all of Oklahoma, and it doesn't have to be that high stakes. Instead, spend some time writing into the stories of your life. So here are a bunch of different topics for you. You can pause the video and look at it, and I'll move my little circle so you can look at different things. In these different topics, you'll notice that they are sort of taking you into a childhood memory. There also is probably going to be some sort of wish or want from that memory, just like in the short story. Instead of the character, it's going to be you, something that you want more than anything, or something that you wish for, or something that you're looking for, or something that you hope would happen, and then that there's some sort of obstacle or challenge or situation that might make you rethink that or discover something new or understand something at a deeper level. So the personal narrative is still a story. There has to be sort of an issue or a problem or a question or an obstacle that challenges it, and then some sort of resolution that's leading to some deeper understanding about who you are, or your family, or your identity, or your life. And so here's a few different examples that you can explore here, like a place that you lived, a really memorable place, a relative that you remember when you were little, maybe taking us into a scene with an important relative, or maybe you had a peculiar relative. A favorite hiding place. You could tell us the story of what was going on when you first found that hiding place and why you went there. A childhood injury or illness, a beloved toy or object, a beloved gift, how you got that nickname, maybe the first time you tried a sport or a hobby or a food or a meal, or you cooked something or did something on your own. So any of your first times, a lesson that you may have learned the hard way, the time you realized that you were unique, your first funeral, the time you spent your own money, someone who helped you overcome an obstacle, a time you made amends for something that you did, a family experience that helped you understand yourself or another family member. Maybe there was a time that you experienced discrimination or bias or stereotyped, and what you learned from that experience, understanding the complexity of friendship, or being a daughter, or being a sibling, or a cousin, or maybe someone looking up to you. Sometime that you were asked to forgive, or that you asked for forgiveness, dealing with loss, sports, or these can be serious, these can be fun, these can be lighthearted, adjusting to a new way of life if you have to go to a new school or something like that. These are a few of the stories, places that you might go to find the story. Another way of uncovering the stories from your life is to do a heart map. And teachers, there's a great link here, and even if you just Google in the World Wide Web heart maps, it's a great way for generating story topics. You can also use the topics from the previous slide or these when it comes to poems or descriptive paragraphs. So all of these are great activities for generating ideas and doing some quick writes spend days, even a month, doing all these quick writes. Fill up your notebook. Fill up your notebook. Get a whole bunch of writing in there, and then go back in and select something that you want to revise for the contest, okay, or for the anthology. So you can see in here, this person did like shapes and color coding and all that kind of thing, things that they do with their free time, people that they care about, places that you visited, defining moments. And it seems to me like any of these would be great for a personal narrative, but there has to be sort of be a story there. So probably the items that are in red here might be really great for a personal narrative, because there's going to be some sort of want and an obstacle, and then hopefully some sort of resolution. So here's a personal narrative checklist. So just as a reminder, these essays these stories should be about 1,000 words. They're going to be in first person, and it's narrative nonfiction. So just like the short story, there's a beginning, middle, and end, not necessarily in that order. You can start in the middle and then do some backstory. That's fine too. The leads that we talked about in the short story, getting right in there with dialogue, getting right in there with a sensory setting, getting right in there with some figurative language or a backstory, like any of that are great leads that you use for your short story. You can also use for your personal narrative. This focuses on the past. Typically, the personal narrative is focusing on the past, fond memories of time gone by. I suppose you could have a personal narrative about something that's pretty recent as well. And the personal narrative, just like the short story, has features of fiction. So it has sensory language, dialogue, character description. Let us know what you look like in there. You can describe yourself, and if there's an antagonist in your story or other characters, what are their gestures? What are their facial expressions? What kind of clothes do they wear? Help us make an image like a movie as this story is unfolding. There's typically a setting. So what's the season? And maybe the season of your story is symbolic of what happened. So if your memory is sort of happening in the fall and the leaves are changing, you can use the leaves as a metaphor for how you changed in the story. Or if your story takes place in the spring, and in the springtime, typically there's a lot of rain, but then there's also blossoms and flowers are blooming. So that might be also a sign of change or growth in your story. So think about how the seasons can help you. And then the ending of your personal narrative would have some sort of aha moment of that memory or some sort of discovery of your personal story. Some benefits to revisiting this moment in your life and telling us about it that we can all take away from it too. So many stories, even though they're really specific to you, might feel quite universal to your readers, that we can relate to that feeling. Maybe we didn't play hockey like you did, but we can understand what defeat feels like, or overcoming that defeat with grace. Maybe we didn't experience the loss of a pet in the same way that you did, but we maybe have other stories of grief in our life that we benefit from hearing yours. So think about your reader again and how you're impacting them and making them feel a certain connection with you by reading your story. So I think that that's it for our personal narrative. And then you can come back on another occasion and hear a little bit about what are our other options. So let's see. Yes, so we have expository essay coming up, descriptive paragraph, poetry, and comic as well. So students, make sure that you give your teachers plenty of time to submit your piece to the Oklahoma Council Teachers of English. In other words, try to give them your finished copy in early December so they have time to look it over and help you polish it and get permission from you and your parents before they submit it on our Google form, which you can find on our website or on Facebook. And we look forward to reading your personal narratives. Thanks, everybody.